Right then, everybody. Now, this is going to be an interesting episode, if anything, because we'll be having one or two people who will be joining us that wouldn't usually be joining Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, because this is a special episode, which it's kind of like an Englishman versus, now, X. You know how the kids do it, the Englishman X John McCrea. We're going to be doing a live stream very shortly indeed. But I wanted to come on very, very quickly before we actually got started, just to explain something about tomorrow. I have often been incredibly surprised that we've been able to get any kind of guests on a Sunday. It's a weekend. It's 10 a.m. Pacific. Usually on the West Coast, I can imagine most artists are sleeping in, or they've been doing a lot of late night shifts. That's pretty much what is going to be happening with Derek Robertson tomorrow. He's contacted us. He's asked if there's any chance that we're going to be able to postpone the show just by a couple of hours. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do, for the first time, I think, which we've had this particular show, a part one and a part two. So part one at 6 o'clock is going to be a show where we're going to be talking about DC fandom. We've also got some other news about some of the convention updates, especially when it comes to Thought Bubble and also Lakes as well. So it's going to be kind of like a news update show at 6 o'clock. And then a couple of hours later at 9 o'clock, it's going to be our Spotlight episode, part two of our episodes on Sunday with Derek Robertson. Really looking forward to talking to him. It's somebody I've not met before, not contacted before, so really looking forward to talking to him. So that's going to be rather cool. So tomorrow, once again, it's going to be a two-parter. Part one, 6 o'clock, our usual time, so 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, with all of our updates and also our coverage of something which will start, I think, in about 30 seconds. DC Fandom opens up its doors. And then, of course, we have ourselves this Spotlight episode with Derek Robertson. That takes place at 9 p.m. GMT, so 1 p.m. Eastern, if you're going to join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Two shows for the price of one. So do join us for our special shows tomorrow. This one, however, is something very special. If you are just joining us for the first time, you're in for a bit of a treat, because we're going to see a master at work. Looking for this. So there you go, that's our opening credits. I had to learn animation for that, so I hope you're still appreciating it, and that's what you're going to be seeing throughout the course of Season 8. If you are new to this show, welcome along. I know that we're going to have one or two fresh faces joining us for Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, because this is a bit of a special one. We are going to be watching somebody creating a piece of art live for you. John McCrea is, of course, a legend when it comes to British comics and comics across the globe, with some amazing work which he is showcasing in a new Kickstarter. It's actually up and running right now. I think we're into the final stretch, and speaking of stretch, he has one or two stretch goals which he's putting in place. One of which is going to be for his 40k stretch. I think it's 40 or is it 30? Tell you what, I think the best person to ask is John McCrea. Hello there, John. How the devil are you, sir? Let me just unmute that. There you go. How are you, sir? Oh, no, I think you... There you go. We can hear you. Excellent
stuff. You can hear me?
We can indeed.
Cool.
Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to do this with you, because this is really exciting. The Kickstarter has been running, I believe, is it 20 days now? It's into its final 10, is that right? Have I got that right?
Yes, I believe so. I think we've got 9 days left to run on it.
9 days to go. Excellent. Yeah. And this, which we're going to be doing today, is a print, which is going to be for the... Did I get it right? Was it 30 or 40?
I think it's 40. It's 40. We're hoping to
Right.
hit 40. I have no idea if we will. We're currently sitting somewhere on 28 or something like that. We have a 30K stretch goal, which is a digital art book. But I figured I'd just sort of, yeah, give the 40K a go, see if it happens. There's nothing like a fool for optimism. So, I'm just we're going to do a print, and in fact, actually, I'm going to do two prints because I was saying on Twitter earlier I wasn't really sure. We did a uh, little vote on who would best be on the print, and people tended to say Six Pack, who's this sort of fellow here. And I've drawn him with one of his co-conspirators, Dog Welder, as well, because I like drawing Dog Welder. He welds dogs to people, so why not? But I was saying on Twitter that I was a little unsure as to whether a couple of lunatics in terrible costumes would really bring a lot of new people to the Kickstarter, if you know what I mean. So I figure I might just try it for two prints. I'm going to do a little bit of work on the other one here as well. But it will be Dead Eyes, Jerry Duggan and myself, our character together. So I'm gonna do two prints. One that's like cool looking, Dead Eyes, and one that's insane looking, Six Pack and Dog Welder. So yeah, that's my plan here, is to do two prints, try to straddle the two sides of the comics community, the insane side and the cool side.
Excellent stuff. Looking forward to this. Really am. We're going to also, for everyone who's watching this and wondering if we're going to be changing the camera layout, don't worry. We are going to be soloing the camera on the artwork so you can see what John's doing. We're also not necessarily going to be talking too much about his career, although we will touch on that. It's going to be mostly about his process and about the actual the work he's doing, and also about the Kickstarter as well. We can take your questions, of course. As always, it's probably best to ask them on the YouTube Q&A. It's a little bit more immediate. There's a bit of a delay on the Facebook feed. But other than that, if you want to ask any questions of John, we'll try and put those to you. We've got Catherine Hemmings as well, who's monitoring the YouTube channel as well. So I'm certain that she can help with any questions that we missed. But we'll do what we can to cover as much as we possibly can today. I think I'll start with just one question, which is not relating to art whatsoever. This is from Safia Tamara. What is your favourite tea?
My favorite team?
Yeah, tea.
Tea. I drink Clipper breakfast tea. That's mine. Clipper are completely biodegradable. There's no plastics in the tea bag. So that's why and it also tastes good. And in fact, I have a vat of it right here, which I'm currently drinking from.
Excellent stuff. I knew this was going to be a slightly longer episode and focusing on some great artwork. So I've got my incredibly large bucket mug, which I'm going to be. Look, it's about the size of my head,
virtually clink our teacups together. There you go.
All the best to you. Excellent stuff.
Cheers.
So, I know that we'll actually focus on the art page now. I know that you've been requesting the topics and the characters, and these were the front runners. Were there any kind of characters that surprised you, that kind of came a little bit out of left field, and you thought, whoa, where did that come from?
Not really, no. Not really. I was surprised that nobody asked for Hitman himself. Which was interesting. And I guess that's probably because I've done a whole bunch of Hitman prints already. And probably most people who like Hitman may well have those. So, yeah, I think people were looking for prints that were of characters that they like, but they haven't had a chance to pick up. So we've got Six Pack and Dog Welder. A lot of people asked for Six Pack on his own, but a lot of people asked for the whole team, and that's 8 characters, and there was just no way I was going to draw 8 characters.
I was about to say that's a bit much.
Yeah, so some people would do it, but not me. I tend to have a life outside of comics.
We've got a question about very much your the style and the methods that you use. But if I can just start with that in terms of what equipment we're actually going to be using. So I mean, we've got obviously a straightforward HB
Well,
pencil.
I just use a very standard pencil. In fact, honestly, I am so unfussy about my penciling tools that it's ridiculous. It's generally what I find lying around. It's generally what I've stolen off the kids that I used. Today I'm using a something. I'd imagine it's something like an HB.
I'm just going to say that looks awfully like the pencils that I used to use at school.
Yeah, it's
So
a Faber-Castell or something. I don't know. I can't recall. But I just found it lying around earlier, and I started penciling it, and there you go. So, and that a rubber is really what I do for the penciling. As far as the inking goes, my preferred tools of choice are Zig Scroll and Brush, which is a double-ended pen. On one end, it's a sort of a brush pen tip type thing, and on the other end, it's got this funny chiseled tip thing, which is really good for getting unusual effects that maybe you weren't expecting, and it gives some nice results like that. And then for the finer details, which I use generally going in, I use these Mitsubishi Unipins. Generally I use from the 0.1, which I use for the finest detail, up to about 0.4, 0.5. I'll really just be sticking to the 0.4 for most of this, with maybe the 0.1 for six-packs bristles or something. Chin. That's really about. I also use a Tipex pen as well, which actually I haven't got on me at the moment because I'm really disorganized, and obviously I'm not going to make any mistakes as well. But that's mistakes. And if I do make any mistakes and I can't find my Tipex pen, I'll just ignore them and sort them out afterwards. So yeah, that's my tools. And at the moment, I mean, I pre-sketched out the characters to a large degree to kind of just give people something to look at instead of a blank page with just a couple of circles on it to start with. And I'm just going to go in and tighten up my pencils and then get straight to inking. A lot of people find the new sort of style of inking I've been employing interesting. So I don't know if I'll focus on that to a degree.
I mean, the Kickstarter, it is an introspective of because it's not necessarily just a retrospective. It is all about the work from across the board. So it's from your very beginning work up to, like I say, with Dead Eyes and the newer stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
In putting together the Kickstarter, I mean, how much have you kind of looked at how your style and how your technique has changed over the years, and what kind of lessons have you kind of learned from that, if any?
Oh, I probably haven't learned any lessons, Leonard. I'm not a quick learner, I've got to say. I mean, I knew I was going to see a lot of changes in my work, and I certainly did. One of the things I did notice is that I used to paint a lot of comic pages back when I was younger, and that was more sort of out of necessity because that's what people wanted, painted work. I'm actually not very comfortable with painting, though, I got reasonably good at it after a while, but it was just what the industry wanted back then was painted artwork. And now they don't really. I don't know if the industry wants anything anymore, quite frankly, but that's another story entirely. But yeah, the Kickstarter was obviously going to be focusing on my work across the board, and I've tried to get a good sort of variance in work between my initial start out stuff, midway through, plus brand new stuff. There's new work going into it as well. There's new pages, new artwork, and it's not just comics. That's six pack sorted out. I think he's sort of ready to go. I'll just tidy up Dog Welder, and he's what was I saying? Yeah.
Oh, I
Oh,
think we're going to have a lot of this where you're going to be talking and then you're going to get into your artwork and then we're going to kind of get lost in conversation, which is great because
that
we
is
can
true.
go all over the
You know,
place.
I will not deny that this is true. My wife asked me earlier about something, and it took her 3 attempts to get through to me before I actually tuned in and realized that somebody was actually speaking to me. So yes, that does
Um, I
happen.
am currently in the doghouse here in the where I am because I was
Uh-huh.
doing a live stream yesterday, at which point I did say to the other half that I would sort out tea once it was all done. She came through past the where I do this 3 times, getting her own tea and completely neglect. I completely ignored it. Completely ignored it. Yeah, she is basically holding that over me. How much I'm paying attention to her.
Well, that's one of the
One of
well,
those things
I'm
you
going to
do.
comment on that for fear of getting myself in trouble, quite frankly. You
We'll
know.
leave it. We'll let it hang there then. We've got a couple of questions coming in already,
Oh,
which
brilliant.
is great. We've got Solicitor Smeg asking, do you prefer old school art methods, i.e., pen and pencil to paper, or digital means like drawing tablets when creating a comic page?
Oh God, I have Photoshop and I use it very very occasionally. Well, not occasionally. I use it at the end of the process to scan my work, obviously, and tidy it up. If I've drawn a head too small, or if there's something not quite right, I'll use the transform tool or to change things. Or and that's about the height of my digital skills. Really, I'm I'm much more comfortable. I'm a dinosaur, so I'm much more comfortable with pencil and paper. I understand them, and if there's a power cut, they remain on the page there and things like that. So, I see advantages. Plus, also, I like to have artwork that I can actually sell afterwards. I mean, just from uh, a purely income driven point of view, shall we say. It's nice to
It's
have original artwork that people can buy and frame and put in their walls. And that's an extra little income stream for any artist. And as far as any artist goes, the more income streams they have, the better for their livelihood.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's something that I've brought up with a number of artists when they've come on the show because when I first started doing this podcast, it was the digital was really starting to become a major part of workflow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was that conversation came up and said, "What are you supposed to do? Just sell a photograph or something?" It doesn't. It's
Well,
yeah.
the thing I have noticed happening is people selling limited prints of pages or covers. Like they'll do a cover for DC, and then they'll do a limited print of it. Or like a high quality limited print to say 30 or 40 of them, and then flog them for 50 quid each. And I don't know if it works, but they're doing it. So that's one way of if you're digital, still making money from the physical side of the artwork as well. I mean, that's not to say I couldn't take this, sell the original, and then sell prints. So, you've still got that advantage over anyone who's working digital. They
Sure.
still can't sell the original. But yes, I have noticed that trend starting to pop up on, it was Twitter. I noticed it first with people putting up limited prints. Or was it Instagram? I cannot recall. And it doesn't matter.
No. How often would you do something like this, like a live stream, to show people your process? Do you
Uh,
turn
I
to streaming at all?
I've done it a few times since the Kickstarter happened, since I started, but this is, I hadn't done it before that. And really, it's because I've been promoting my Kickstarter that I've been doing so. Um, but, it's quite enjoyable. And I think to a degree, it's another way to generate interest in your work. I know that people enjoy watching people drawing, and with the lack of conventions where people can't go along to a show and watch the artist working on a page there, then this is a pretty good alternative to that. I know my mate PJ Holden does this on a fairly regular basis, where he'll do a little live stream and just ask people to pay a few quid for, well, I don't know how much he charges, and then he'll do a quick headshot for them, and he makes a bit of coin that way from that, which is a pretty good methodology and works for him. So, but PJ's so sharp on the whole technology business, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I set up I set up a hashtag, and I confuse the crap out of people when I reshare videos on certainly on Twitter, and the hashtag is cows come home. At which point I've had one or two artists going, okay, why have you shared my video with the title Cows Come Home? I can watch these. I can watch art being created, like I say, until the cows come home, because this is great stuff.
Yeah.
We've got ourselves another question, which is coming from Grim Jaggers.
I'm just
Grim
gonna, oh, I know who Grim Jaggers is.
There you go. How long does it typically take you to complete an illustration?
Hello? Yes, fire away.
How long does it typically take
Leonard?
for you? Oh. Hello?
Nope.
Can you hear me?
All right. Well, I can see the question. How long does it take me? How long does it take me to complete the illustration? And that's a real how long is a piece of string question, because of course it depends on the drawing. If it's a simple drawing like this, which is just two figures against a blank background, it will take a lot less time than, say, a drawing of somebody against a very complicated building backdrop or something like that. So, I mean, something like this, I would hope to probably get it done within like a space of 4 or 5 hours. So for inking now, I've started with the little Mitsubishi pen, but I'm going to move on to the big brush pen and put down a lot of the big strokes first and just go through it, sort of brushing in a lot of the big broad strokes. And I just sort of randomly move around the page doing this a lot of the time, just sort of putting in the folds and the bigger lines. And then once I've done that, I'll come back with the little pens and just start figuring out the finer details.
It's interesting that you mentioned about the white pen, because I have seen a number of artists using the white pen for effect and certainly for highlights and for that regard. Is that something that you've used, or is it? Oh God,
yes, absolutely. I for sure do that. It's the white pen is a godsend, and I don't know how anybody existed without it before and how they managed to draw anything. I guess they were just really good at drawing or something. But for us mere mortals, I think the white pen is an essential. And yeah, you're right. You can get great effects out of it. Obviously, some people like Jim Mafood or Bill Sinkovich or guys like that, it's like a huge part of their arsenal, and they employ it all the time. And depending on the sort of style of drawing, I will too, I suppose. But yeah, it's without doubt a useful thing to have, not just for corrections, but also for drawing. And I will draw a black area and then work back into it to give it for effects. Yes.
Cool. We've got Irish and Sketchy. I'm late, but I made it. Well done, John, for smashing the Kickstarter. Looking forward to finally getting some original art from you.
Thank you very much, Irish and Sketchy. I really appreciate it.
What's been your take on the whole Kickstarter effort in terms of how it's been received, and just the whole, because I talked to this about with Scott Snyder, and he said, I mean, it can be very difficult for some artists to actually put themselves forward and put that salesman hat on, and because he described it as, you know, being the dancing monkey and the PT Barnum of it all, of actually becoming a full blown salesman for your work. I mean, how's that been for you for this Kickstarter?
I'm fine. I'm a bit of a show off anyway, to a large degree, and also a bit of a dancing monkey as well, as Scott so ably put it. Yeah, I think you do have to become your own brand, don't you? You have to sort of, and this is the way things are going to go with the industry, I would say, at the moment, in that you're going to have to find your own characters and work your own brand and be like a bit of a showman, like become a sort of a Stan Lee type character. And the people who are better at doing that will be more successful, of course. Obviously, you're going to get plenty of people who, well, not plenty, but certainly you're going to get a lot of people who, for things will remain the same, and that the industry will carry on for them. They'll continue just working for Marvel or DC on their books. But obviously, with Corona and the constriction or contraction of the industry, I think it's going to become necessary for a lot more artists to do what I am doing, what various other people I've seen more and more Kickstarters with people appearing, and
Yeah, that's
so that's just a sort of a necessary evil, I guess, of this whole mad coronavirus event. Like it's both good and bad. I mean, you get to do what you want, and you have to find your people, and connect with them and your audience and the people who want your product. But at the same time, that's quite hard work as well. And some people aren't kind of geared up for the whole sort of singing and dancing business. Even drawing live like this, a lot of people aren't very comfortable with it. I know some myself, and it's, that it can be tricky for some folks. So it's interesting times, no doubt about it. But I mean, the Kickstarter has been incredible. Kickstarters are incredibly hard work. I have found that it's been a lot of effort, and I've had a big team around me. Well, a team of 4 and myself working on this. Kat, who's is helping out on the YouTubes, and then I've got Ryan Hughes, who's doing the design work. My wife Rachel, who's doing a lot of the financial stuff. Sort of figuring everything out and doing spreadsheets and all that jazz that I can't stand, and Laura Howell, who is doing the editing on the book as well. So with those 4 people and myself, and still, it's a ton of work. So
yeah, I
yeah,
can imagine.
it's quite the thing.
With the actual book itself, how close to completion? I mean, we're talking about design there. I mean, I'm presuming design is pretty much done. Layouts are pretty much nearly completed. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
how close to the actual book is it?
all the pages are designed. The look of the book has been figured out. Here's where this little thing comes in, kind of useful, doing sort of goofy effects like this. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty much done. There are there's a new story in the book, Rocket Station Charlie, which is Jerry Duggan and my new story. And it is, there's going to be 8 pages of it in the book, and I have drawn 2 of them. So I do have to get a move on and get on with that. And I'm still working on the Dead Eyes Prose story. That I want to get out of the way. The stuff that Ryan has to work on a fair bit and do design work on, I want done first, so that he's had all the work, as much of the work out of the way as soon as possible. And then just things like drawing an actual comic page, well, that's just up to me to get on with that, and then it can be plopped in. So it does have to be lettered, of course. as well. So yeah, there's still a bit to do, and there's 9 days left to run on the Kickstarter, and then I've probably got a week or two to assemble the book, and in which time I'll be finishing off, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, all that, making sure, you know, I haven't forgotten anything. Actually, I'm sure. Uh, what are the odds of me forgetting something, eh, Leonard? Yeah. So that's why I've got a team around me, so that hopefully I won't.
Fair enough. And also, the great thing about Kickstarter as well is you can get really kind of metric about where the interest is coming from and where your audience and where you're finding your audience online. Has there been any surprises to where people are actually buying the book from? How's the overseas market looking for you?
Well, yeah, I would say the majority of this book is 50. I'd say it's about 50-50.
Right.
Overseas market takes up 50%. UK market is the other 50. Um, and then of the 50% that's overseas, the main majority of that is US, with Australia, Japan, and others, sort of Germany, some Russia,
I
you
was
know.
just going to say that they are all over the place then, yeah.
Oh yeah, 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 and that's what you expect. I mean, well, that's what you hope. I hope I've got a broad cross section of fans and from all around the place. It's nice. Um, it means that if I'm lost somewhere, I can usually find a bed to crash on or something.
We've got a question from Andy Hayes, but I think we've pretty much covered this one. Do you still do your comic strip art on paper, or do you do it digitally? And like you say, it's
Nah, it's
digital.
all paper, Andy. It's all
It's all
paper.
paper.
Yeah, I'm a moron when it comes to computers, and I'm a dinosaur. So yes, it's all paper. I do some digital correcting here and there uh, on the computer, and I would say that as far as coloring, when I color on the computer, can do a little bit of very basic coloring, and I usually try to base the coloring on my strengths, but I do tend to stick to traditional media. It's that's and I do find it amusing, that term, traditional media, as well. You mean pens and pencils and things like that, but paper, all that. But yeah, that's what I am.
Fair
I
enough.
am.
Going through the characters in the book and looking back at the your earlier work, has it kind of tempted you to pull any of the older characters out of the dust off some cobwebs and draw them again?
Uh, yes, actually, for sure. There's a couple of comics that are going to appear in later volumes. Obviously, this is the first volume of four that are going to come out annually. Um, but in later ones, there were two comics I did with Phil Hester. One called War Paint, and one called Progenitor. War Paint was for Strip Magazine, which was a UK based uh, anthology book that came out a couple of years ago with John Freeman editing it. And unfortunately, it didn't find its market. And Phil and I had done a comic for that called War Paint, of which we have done about 40 pages of pencils, inks, and colors, and it's not finished. So we're going to finish it for either volume two or volume three. I can't recall. I've got the pagination all worked out, but and Progenitor was for David Lloyd's Aces Weekly book, of which we've done about 21 pages, and I really want to finish that. Progenitor's written by Phil Hester again, and is about aliens versus dinosaurs. But of course, as with anything Phil writes, it's got a hook and a sting in the tail to it, and is a great story. And so both of these are going to get finished and appear in Aces Weekly. I mean, appear in the Mighty World of McCrea. So yeah, that's a couple of things. And it's been nice re-looking at Carl Allison as well, which was a black and white story I used to write and draw for Deadline magazine. about just about an eponymous heroine, and I must admit I hadn't looked at it for ages, and I was thinking, oh, it'd be nice to give it a shot and write and draw another couple of Carla stories. So who knows? We shall see. But this is all sort of time, weather permitting type of thing, you know. So we'll I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Fair enough. I see the leaving the facial expressions till a little bit till last. Is that something that you usually gear towards?
Nope, nope. I'm completely random, to tell you the honest to God truth. Often I'll start on the face and work outwards, but for this one, I just went in with the body first. I've no idea why. Possibly
It's a
because,
big body. I mean, it's
yeah,
imposing.
I think possibly there was an idea of filling up the page quickly and giving people something to look at and see to see. I suppose I was demonstrating the big strokes with the brush, and things like that. So perhaps that's why I went for the body first. Uh, I'm not 100% sure, as a lot of my drawing, you see a lot of people talking about their process and their thinking behind decision making that they do on artwork. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure how much process I have and how much of it is kind of just an ad-libbed methodology.
I think that's
No,
what I was kind of alluding to earlier about when you were looking through your older work and just wondering if you could see an evolution of process. But it's like you say, you feel that it's something that happens organically. Oh, hello. Hello.
I think it's just been I mean, it's over 30 years or so of draw. I've improved quite a bit, I think, over those years. I mean, thank God, uh, to a degree. I mean, if I hadn't improved with 30 years of practice, it would be a sad story, wouldn't it? I'd be,
Fair enough. We kind of lost you a little bit on audio there for a second, but we got the
oh,
general
right,
gist.
okay.
We got you.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry about that.
No, no worries. We'll see how it goes and goes on. Okay, a couple more questions while you're, and I'll solo that again, so people can once again continue to see the artwork go. This is Gary Hill. Was it fun having
Okay.
free reign to draw the filth and violence of Herogasm?
Uh, yes, yes, it was, Gary. It was. When I first started drawing the book, I guess maybe I'd been working in the clean world for too long, and I, uh, I was drawing the scenes very covered up, not revealing too much. And Garth was just like, no, no, we want to see everything. So I had to amend my thinking there, and it with yeah, and with any of the boys, it was just really whatever you want to do seemed to be the order of the day. There were a few things that I did uh, that made me almost wince a bit when I was drawing them. But you know, it was great fun. It's always good to working with Garth. So I'm just going to get this 6-pack one done, and then I'll probably be doing I'll move on to inking the Dead Eyes picture next, if you want, and you can have a
Fair
look
enough.
at the process on my Dead Eyes
That'd be
work.
fantastic.
Obviously, with theyese guys, they're much more cartoony, and from that point of view, in a way, easier to draw. I guess maybe that's just because I'm uh, more inclined towards cartoony styled artwork, but I'll be showing you a little bit of the process of the of my work with Dead Eyes.
That's cool. Gary says thanks, John, for your answer on that one.
Yeah, no
Um,
problems.
I mean, it's something that I was going to bring up when you moved on to the Dead Eyes pieces, because, like you say, there is that the real contrast between the cartoony style and what you're doing with Dead Eyes. Um, how did that particular character and that particular book evolve? Because, as you know, I'm a huge fan of that book,
Oh, thank
and
you.
straight off the gate, it is such a strong character, such a strong. Well, I mean, that's also down to Mr. Duggan and what he's done with the character, but the way that the pair of you have come together to bring that book to life. What was your choices when it comes to the actual art style for Dead Eyes?
Well, it's a real noir, gangster noir thing. So I and quite a serious book, even though there is humor tinged throughout it. So I wanted it to be fairly realistic. Um, no real cartoony flourishes within it. So I did used a lot of photo reference for things, just to get it looking like real world. I mean, because it's set in the real world. He's a you know it's a he's got no superpowers. He's just a guy in a mask who just happens to be pretty sweet in a fight. Um, and the general gist of it was just going for as realistic as possible with that. And my style had moved in that general direction, um, with various things.
Fair enough.
With very, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the
No,
rest.
yes,
Yeah.
you need to
But
just
yes,
work on
I
yeah.
mean, again, it was just going for that noir look and really throwing as much black into the panels as possible, and just making it as dark and moody, and character driven as possible.
Fair enough. I am going to try a different camera angle. Let's just see if what this does in terms of. Nah, I was hoping that it was going to zoom it in a little bit further and
Can
see a
you
bit further, but no,
can
no,
you
no,
see
no.
again while obscuring the art?
No, it's all looking good. I mean, we can all
So
see it.
far, so far, this is how it's looking. Six pack is looking suitably insane, I think. So I'll just finish six pack off, and then I'll move on to the Dead Eyes pick.
Fair enough. We do have Catherine who is checking out the Facebook and the YouTube. If she has any, if there's any comments that or questions that I miss, I'm sure Catherine will help out there. But we do have a couple more questions coming in. This is Andy Hayes again. Did you do a strip for Toxic Comics back in the 90s, and will it appear in your book?
I did, and I wouldn't. It was a six pager. Again, it was one of those full color jobs. It was six pager. It was written by Mal Coney, who worked on The Darkness for a while. Mal's another Irish fella, and he's a great lad. And yes, that will be appearing in the first volume. It's called Wormwood, and it appeared in, I think, around about issue, oh, I don't know, 28 or 30 of Toxic. Did it make it that far? I don't know. It was the first job that I never got paid for,
Ah,
as Toxic folded up, and the owner ran away with all the money, so and didn't pay anybody. So that was maybe not the greatest. But I mean, all learning experiences, you get to realize that some people are just going to nick your money.
fair enough.
You just
I
have
think
to,
that's the advantage of going to Kickstarter as well. You kind of got that control of the revenue stream, I suppose.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to this, I mean, like you say, you're going to say you're going to finish this piece off and then move on to Dead Eyes. When do you feel, or when do you really kind of have an idea of when to kind of step away and let it be done?
When the tea's ready. Honestly, again, that is something that plagues all artists, is the idea of when to stop, when to finish the detail. And a lot of it is to do with being a freelancer and having to pay the bills, and you have to understand that there's only so much time that you can spend on a piece before it becomes completely inappropriate, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word to keep going with it. Obviously, there's some very detailed artists out there, and that's fair play to them. The other thing you've got to consider with a detailed style or a very detailed style is that you have to maintain that style over 20, 40, 100 pages on a monthly book. And how do you do that if your style is so detailed and so fussy that you can only do a page every 3-4 days? So yeah, there's all sorts of factors to take into account. Some people have quite loose flowing styles, and they can just whisk out a page in a very short period of time. And I'm of course extremely jealous of those people. But for me, I've always had a problem sort of striking a balance between detailed but also feasible. And I guess one of the things to do is always try and put a silhouette in every so often. Silhouettes, black out the figures. They look moody and shadowy and cool, and you don't have to draw quite as much. So there's things like that. You can little tricks that you pull to just speed the things up as well.
Fair enough. Andy would like to say thank you very much indeed for answering the question. Nice one, John. Thanks for answering that. Looked for reading it in your book. Sad to hear that you didn't get paid for it. And indeed, you've got Solicitor of Smeg saying, so what you're saying is the job was toxic in the literal sense.
Yes, I wish I'd thought of that. Good.
Gary's asked a really good question, and this is something that has come up, especially because I've wanted to bring this up a lot, especially when I've been covering Glasgow Comic Con and conventions up north. Okay, let me just bring the
just right finished there.
Just turn off.
So anyway, I will obviously for the print I'll draw a dog welder too, and there might even be a bit of color put onto it. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to approach that at the moment. Right. So yes, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, the question's coming from Gary. Why do you think there is such a deep pool of comic talent in Ireland?
That is a good question, and that has come to the fore really over the past sort of 10 years or so, especially from Southern Ireland. Now that you've got a whole ton of really talented guys coming from the south of Ireland, and it's impressive, the breadth of it. And I have no idea. Possibly there was a big animation studio down south in Dublin. Also Don Bluth had an animation studio down there as well. So it could be those factors. Maybe they just like reading comics more than us. I don't know. So yeah, I have no clue. I have no clue beyond those factors, but there's no doubt that there are a whole lot of guys coming into the industry now that are extremely talented. And you've got your Declan Shavley and Nick Roach and Will Sliney and Stephen Mooney and all those guys, and they are all very good artists. And there's a slew of really good other people coming up through the indie scene as well.
Oopsie daisy. Hang on a second. 1 second. So, as you could probably tell, the tablet is on a stand, and it's well. Tell you what, I think we can we just add John's mic? I think we're now on your other microphone. Yeah, so I'm now on the mic which is pointing at you, so at least we can still talk. Can you hear me?
Have we lost it
I
completely?
think they're going to get the tablet back up and running.
Don't forget.
I don't know whether that's
Sorry, folks.
Don't worry about it. We'll just move that for a second. It is something that we've been working out the best way to get the camera to the artboard. We'll get it sorted, and we'll return. Thank goodness it didn't actually happen while he was inking, with the the tablet sliding across the whole thing. But no, they're just getting that all sorted out. And as soon as we've got
you can just ask me questions in the meantime while I'm penciling away.
No worries. What was I was all distracted. I was gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was the comment that I was going to make, and you were talking about why the deep pool of comic talent in Ireland, and all I can think of is the quote about Prince when he was getting started in Minneapolis. At the end of the day, it's bloody cold in Minneapolis, and there's a lot of talent and bands that came out of that era because everyone was just indoors, staying indoors and trying to stay warm. So I'm wondering if that's kind of something to do with it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe not so much the cold as the rain in the south. You know, just it's bloody wet, so everybody was stuck indoors, keeping out of the rain. What do you want to do, you little bastards? Here, draw a comic. I know that's the way Dak's mum talked to him.
Right, so I'm just going to solo that again so we can get that all framed up. I know that we're getting that done, but that's cool.
Have we got our signal back again? Have we got?
We do indeed. Yep, we have.
Yes, we do. Okay, can you see the picture?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
While we're on Dead Eyes, if we could quickly talk about the kind of like the origin and the evolution of this particular character. Where did this come from, and how long did it take to kind of settle on what Dead Eyes became?
Well, Jerry and I
skipping over that bit in the middle.
Jerry and I met at a show in Dublin that was run by the Big Bang years ago, and we were both mutually enjoyed each other's work, and we talked about working together. And a few years after that, Jerry and I were chatting about doing a book together. He sent me a few ideas he had, and Dead Eyes was the most appealing one. I do enjoy a good noir gangstery sort of story, and the idea of him in this mask was visually appealing to me. I figured I could make something of that, and the process of figuring out what he looked like was fairly simple, I think, really. I mean, I had to go through a few iterations to kind of trim down, but Jerry suggested the suit and the duncher, and of course the X's for the eyes, and the rest of it was really just down to me. And he was a lot more complicated looking when I first was trying to figure him out, and then it was just a matter of pruning away at the design until it looked nice and sleek, and it wasn't too fussy, and it gave a good silhouette. Obviously, if you're dealing with a character like Dead Eyes who's set in a noir gangstery world, you're going to have a lot of nice silhouette shots, and he's got to look good. The idea of those red X's against a nearly sort of totally silhouetted form with the gun, and these little tags I drew, which had their origin partly in what the character was called before, but still worked fine. So yeah, that was the sort of origins of it. And here I'm just going to show you, if you can see, like for this drawing, I posed for the picture out in the garden earlier. My son took a photo of me, and then I just work from that. And that's the process I use for a lot of Dead Eyes, is just to give me the sort of stance the folds in the fabric, make them more as realistic as I can possibly get them. So I use a lot of photo ref. Also, of course,
I was going to ask about photo reference, especially for Dead Eyes, and just how much you were using. So it's interesting to know that you're using quite a fair amount.
yeah. I mean, I don't, you know, I guess there's a lot of this sort of idea that people have that somehow using photos is wrong or cheating or something like that. And of course, it's not. I mean, Norman Rockwell used photo ref, and and most artists do or have at some point in their career, and it's either a matter of speed. Using a photo gives you something to start with and build on without having to make it all up out of your head, or it just adds that sort of extra blend of realism that you might want for a certain thing. The trick with photo ref is not getting so hung up on it that your artwork ends up looking like one of those photo strip stories that you used to get in the British comics at any rate, where everybody posed for the panels, and then they just shot, like Doomlord was photo stripped for a while, which was an eagle, and it wasn't the worst of them, but they tend to end up looking a little bit staged, and everybody looked a bit fake, like action men, all sort of terribly posing. And you've got to watch out for that. You've got to add, you've got to bring something to it, not just copy the photo. You've got to bring an energy to it. Guys, I mean, if you look at the way I'm posed, I was standing with my legs as far apart as I thought was sensible in this picture when I was posing. But of course, when it's come to the actual picture itself, the pose is much more dynamic. Yeah. It's much more dynamic, and I've changed things and altered things to make it look cooler and more interesting looking. So the photos are a base upon which you build a foundation with photo ref. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with using it. I think it's just you don't want to get so hung up on it that you forget what you're after, which is you want your pictures to flow and tell the story, but also be dynamic and cool to look at, especially when you're dealing with gangsters or superheroes or what have you. There's nothing worse than very static looking superheroes.
What's your process like when it comes to pieces where you feel that perhaps it's not quite working? Are you somebody that will just hammer away at it and just sort of like chisel, just almost make it work, or are you somebody who can just move the page away and start again?
I used to be a lot more of the first, where I would try and batter away at it, and I've always found that, and I always regretted it. I think a lot of the time when I would do things like that. I think that's enough for that. I may or may not get this finished now, but I just wanted to get on to inking it now.
Sure.
I used to try and hammer away at things, and that was possibly because I was working on monthly book, and I felt always under the gun and under pressure. Nowadays, I'm very much of the idea that you really want your work to be the best it possibly can. So if something's not working, I do tend to just ditch it and start again. At the same time, I will never throw a piece of artwork away, because sometimes it's just your perspective at that point that is making you feel that it's a terrible drawing, when in fact, coming back to it a couple of days later, you go, oh God, no, that's actually fine. That works okay. So it's one of those things where you've just got to play it by ear, I suppose. But I do tend to, with Dead Eyes, there were quite a number of pages that I scrapped and started again just because I wasn't feeling it with it at all. So yeah, that's become a bigger part of the way I do business, is to scrap things if I'm not happy with them. Obviously, it's can be a bit rough if
I
you
can
are
imagine.
trying to get on with things. But for Dead Eyes, I just wanted it to be as near to perfect as I possibly could get it.
Fair enough. This, by the way, this live stream is entirely at John's disposal, which means at any point that he feels that we will step away, but we'll try and get as much as we can, certainly to see these pieces as close to completion. Of course, you can possibly get hold of a print of certainly of the first piece if you are a backer at kickstarter.com/project/John McCrea. The Mighty World of John McCrea. The URL is right there at the top of the screen, and we'll put it in the description below as well. Do check out the Kickstarter. The book itself looks incredible from the pages that the design pages that they've put up on the Kickstarter so far. But no, do check out the Kickstarter, because with 9 days to go, you really want to get in on this. It really is a hell of a book. Solicitor Smeg is asking, do you ever get a script and just straight out know certain panels won't work? Oh, okay.
I'm sure.
I was going to say that's not exactly something that you could possibly say to some of the collaborators you've had, because they know their stuff. They know what they're doing.
Yes, to a degree. But when it comes to visuals, the artist knows better, quite frankly. And I will change stuff if I feel it's necessary. The most of the people I'm working with know their stuff, but I have worked with people who are new to the industry, and you get things where they make the panel impossible to draw by trying to put too much into it, and so that happens all the time. Panel one, he gets out of the car, walks up the driveway, puts the keys in the door, opens the door, and goes into the house. That's actually 5 panels, but it can be done if you rethink how to frame it. If you shoot it from inside the house looking out through the door, you have him just the door open, him with the keys in his hands, the car parked at the bottom of the driveway, then that sort of can tell the story. But it is a tricky thing to do, and of course, it's I've encountered it all the time where people will suggest things. I mean, a lot of art writers don't bother, and that's a nice thing as well. They don't sort of bother with really trying to enforce their idea of what they feel the panel should look like. It's sort of known as the John Wagner approach in British comics, where John Wagner's panel descriptions tend to run to things like Judge Dredd on bike, and then the dialogue, and it's up to the artist to get on with it after that. And that's what I like most, is just the idea of the writer having confidence in the artist's ability and just letting them get on with it. I really haven't encountered too many Alan Moore type scripts. If you know what I mean. Alan was famous for describing every mote of dust in panels, and I think that would kind of drive you around the twist a bit. Obviously, being a genius, he could get away with that. But there you go.
I mean, I actually haven't read that many Alan Moore scripts. I think I've read maybe the Watchmen, because I've got the Watching the Watchmen book, which was put together. But it's more the which ones have I seen? Grant Morrison is the one, and it's a question I've always wanted to ask his artists. Do you feel you have to be as smart as Grant Morrison to work with Grant Morrison?
Is Grant as smart as he thinks he is? Oops. I'm not 100%. I think a lot of the time people are just using big words and conning us. I don't know. I love Grant's writing, so I'm not going to comment any further on that one.
Fair enough. We'll leave it there. You're using the bigger pen here, and you're really getting some big black colors, and they're really big shadows. it's very much a design of the actual the character as well. That real kind of noir element. I'm more or less just commentating here, really. But
it's great fun putting in these big shapes, and a lot of the time I'll draw a lot of folds and things in the fabric, and then just go, oh, it'd be better if I just block that all in black. just eliminate all the work I've possibly done, just because I think it would look better without all the fussiness. And a lot of the time I leave the fussiness to the backgrounds. In this book, he's quite simple, and it's the backgrounds that are complex. And if I was a smarter person,
oh, I think that actually hit him.
I think that's Grant's revenge.
Hang on a second. Let's just bring
there.
in there.
Can you hear me still?
I can hear you because I think I've moved you over to the other camera.
No,
we're fine. We're finding sound from somewhere.
Technical difficulties.
Did that hit you by any chance?
Have we talked about the pictures and shown it on the screen?
This picture?
No, the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
No,
Can
the
I
actual.
put this back on?
No,
Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, the camera's there. Hang on a second.
Why are we echoing?
I think that's because of me. 1 second. There we go. Should be a little bit better. If I add you to the stream. Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that.
No. Listen, it's we knew that there was going to be. This is spit and sawdust stuff. This is great. This is the process. Although we have lost sound. Hang on a second. We can't hear you, John. I don't think he can hear me. Yes, we seem to have got a frozen tablet. It seems to have been off the... It's a shame because we were so close. Let's see. Okay, so I think they're going to try again with the tablet. 1 second. And the other phone is muted, so we can't hear. This is it. This is live television. This is live broadcasting. This is what it's all about. So no worries. We're getting a message saying, shall we leave it for 10 minutes? Hello. Yes. Hi.
Yeah, it's
can you hear me, John? I don't think he can hear me. I think he's actually got his sound turned down on this camera, so there's no reverb. I think because we were getting sound, I think through the tablet. But as soon as they get that kind of back in place, we'll put it back in. But once again, tell you what, we'll bring up the banner again one more time for you to go and check out the book. The Kickstarter is 9 days away from completion. It's already at just under 28 or just over 28,000. There we go. Hang on a second. We're getting there. Right.
Are we back?
We're back. Just about. No. Don't worry about it.
Christ, this is not going to hold.
Hold on. Just...
Improvise, adapt, overcome. This is what this is where scout training kicks in, and years of watching Why Don't You?
Oh God, why don't you? Yes. Forgotten about that.
Well, you need to keep your shoulders back.
Well, I mean, it's like I was explaining. Like I say, we're at about just over 28,000 on the actual campaign. It has gone through its target, so it's now all stretch
Yeah,
goals. They're aiming for this is for the 40,000 stretch goal. So obviously what we need you to do is go and check out kickstarter.com/projects/John McCrea, the mighty world of McCrea. It's up there on the top of the screen, and like I say, we'll put the link below as well for everyone to follow. A couple of comments coming in. Yeah, Catherine is saying we are on £28,129. So congratulations to everybody who has supported it. You are going to be very much in the
Yeah, right.
receiving end of a cracking book. Catherine's reminding, yes, while it's all silent, yes, the Kickstarter has 8 days left. I'll tell you what, I'll ask a question. I'll put it back onto to the.
Are we back?
We are, yes. We're just
Okay.
we're getting it focused. We're looking at your arms at the moment, and very attractive they are indeed.
Oh, thank you. God bless you.
Let's well, number one, we've got comments about let's leave it. I think it was all down to me putting the Grant Morrison fly in the ointment. The last thing we need is to be responsible for John McCrea to be blackballed. Totally understandable, so we'll leave that one alone. But Solicitor Smeg is asking, have you ever had a great pitch that has been ruined by publishers' intervention? Idea nixing gore or other visuals for various reasons. And for the love of God, don't name publishers. But basically, have you had a great pitch that has been ruined by publishers? By the high ups?
Not really that I can think of. I guess maybe because of the writers I've worked with, they've pushed things through the way they've wanted those things to come through. I don't have much power in the industry, but somebody like Garth, if he says I want it to have exploding eyeballs, the publishers will generally go, yep, sure, bring them on, yeah, and then they'll figure things out afterwards. So as far as projects being nixed, not really any that I can think of. We did, I mean, it's well known that Garth and I did have problems with Hitman and its approach to superheroes within the DCU. So that's not and we had to sort of battle a bit against the sort of, shall we say, the Bat Office a little bit, because they weren't too happy with our portrayal of Batman and the way we took the piss out of the superheroes to a large degree. So yeah, there was that, but for the most part, not really, no.
We've got a comment from Furious, the hip hop Somalia, waiting for the Nat That Hat or Beitor original sketch tier to be added into the mix, and I have my £500 pledge ready. So there you go.
Okay, right. Bribery works.
Right, you've got this one, which I'm really curious about more than anything. This is RG. Can you please tell the Nightwing story, John?
Well, I presume we're talking about Nightwing being not. We had a Nightwing story in Hitman that was canned because the Bat Office got fed up with us, and so they just stopped allowing us to use any of their characters after a bit. And so the Nightwing one was basically where Tommy and Nat drowned the guy in the toilet while distracting Nightwing outside in the bar. Eventually it got used just without Nightwing being there. He wasn't terribly essential to the story, I suppose. So in a way, what was the point of him being there, other than us trying to attract the Nightwing crowd? And I don't know if they really would have stuck around particularly. I mean, Nightwing was a great book. I haven't read it for ages, but when it was being done by Scott McDaniel and Chuck Dixon, it was a really tremendous book.
It's something I haven't asked you in interviews yet, or when we've had you on Talking Con, about the books you are reading at the moment. What are you currently kind of
Uh,
looking through on your pull list, or?
no, well, I'm looking forward to. Uh, I mainly read image books at the moment, just because there is so much product out there. You kind of have to narrow beam focus a little bit, I think, or else you just go insane trying to figure out what to read. So I do tend to stick to image books because they tend to tell the sort of stories that I'm most interested in these days. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of what used to be called Protector, but is now called First Knife, from Image. That I think the trade of that is coming out soon. I've read the first few issues in floppy, and it's great. I love the artist on the book, and the story's cracking. I would tell you the artist's name, but I'm pretty sure I'm always mispronouncing it. But anyway, I apologize to him for that, if that's the case. But I'm not even going to attempt right now. So yeah, that, and I read Deadly Class and books like that. I'm trying to think of anything else particularly interesting that I'm reading at the moment. Can't quite. You know when you get put in the spot about those sorts of things, and you just blank completely.
That's the reason why I don't ask. I sometimes ask it, and I stopped because people were really starting to get annoyed with me. Is asking about favorite artists or upcoming artists that they like, because then number one they have to think of them off the top of their head, and then number two there's going to be someone that's going to forget, and
Yeah.
they're just going to get frustrated with me. So I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stopped
yeah.
asking that one.
Well, I mean, as far as favorite artists go, new artists coming up, there are just so many as well, just so many talented people coming up that it's just terrifying, quite frankly. So talented and such a young age, and you know, just all able to draw the hell out of things. The competition these days is incredible.
But I think, like you discussed earlier, it's the whole idea of knowing some fundamentals and being able to do this, to be able to draw to paper. I think a number are kind of a little bit too reliant on the digital format and the Control Z and
Maybe
going back
I
in
mean,
time.
I think there's some people who do it spectacularly well. My problem with digital is sometimes it can look a little bit, you know, a bit like the photo reference. It can look a bit forced and not real, and that's a trick of it, I suppose, is just being able to use it well enough. I mean, as with anything, it's just another tool. Digital is just another pencil or pen or rubber. It's just a very complicated tool that can do so much, but at the same time, it's only as good as the person who is using it. And so, if they're not that great with it, well, then the results aren't going to be that good. But you know, you get somebody who knows their shit and is super good at it, then it's going to be wicked looking. So yeah, no, it's like anything. It's just another tool.
Fair enough. The piece that we've seen earlier from the 6-pack piece, that's going to be the print that's going to be for the stretch goal. Do you have any plans for this piece? Is this going to be?
Oh no, like I said, I'm probably just going to use both as stretch goal. As the 40K stretch goal will probably be both the prints, I think, just because I kind of was worried that two demented lunatics on a print might not be incentive enough for a lot of people to slam down their hard-earned cash. So I thought I'd maybe go with a slightly cooler character than Dog Welder and 6-pack. But I'm sure some people will say that nobody is cooler than Dog Welder or 6-pack. They're probably right.
You're talking about the this possibly going to be. Is this going to be an annual thing, or do you feel that volume 2 could
It's good.
appear?
There's four volumes planned of the book, because that's how much stuff I've got. And when I first decided to do it, I had no idea I had so much work, creator-owned work, sitting in hand. Because I've done quite a lot of work for hire stuff for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, or what have you. So I thought I would maybe have enough for one 200-page book, but as it turned out, I had a lot more than I was expecting, and that was rather nice, and so it's become 4 of these books coming out annually. Christmas annuals is the plan. Also, of course, the fact that it's not just comic strips that is going into it is a big factor in why I'm able to make it run to 4 of them, because there's a lot of other stuff going in, things like puzzle pages, the Dead Eyes prose story in the first one. There's articles and interviews as well. In the UK, we used to have annuals at Christmas, which were oversized hardback books, and they did reprint comic stories, but they also had all these extra features, and I love those annuals, and I'm just really trying to get the sense of that again, that idea of getting an annual at Christmas, and that's the sort of vibe I'm after with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of nostalgia driven stuff. I mean, Ryan and I have been working on the design of the thing together, and everything is sort of driven by the sort of nostalgia of what British comics used to look like as far as the design work goes. There's a lot of little nods to all the old British Marvels and old British DC reprint books.
Cool. We're coming obviously to the close of these 2 pieces.
This Dead Eyes piece is coming along all right, actually.
Yes, it's very nice. So we'll. I think we're into any last-minute comments, any last-minute questions that anyone has. Please do jump in on the comments. Catherine's keeping an eye on them as well, but I think we're doing pretty well in monitoring what we've got. The 2 that we've got here, Solicitor Smeg is asking, when making a comic that shows a place that actually exists, like Tokyo, is it important for the art to be accurate or just visually appealing?
Both, to a degree. I think you need to put in places that do make people go, oh, that's such and such in Tokyo. But you don't have to be beholden to it, because obviously the story is paramount. And if your story requires that such and such building is near to such and such a building, well, then so be it. Let's face it, you're dealing with a fantasy world. With Dead Eyes, it's set in Boston, so I have put tons and tons of Boston landmarks into the book. But for instance, in the first story, when we meet Martin, he's working as a greeter at Walmart, or a Walmart-like store, because obviously we can't actually really have it as Walmart. We'll get sued, perhaps. And somebody commented that there are no Walmarts in Boston, or that in the part of Boston there was that. And I was like, well, yeah, but there's also no masked criminals with X's running around with guns. So what's the point? So it's weird how people will find that to be a problem, but actually it's all about telling the story. Obviously, but it's nice if you can make it relatable too. If people can look at it and go, oh yeah, that's the train that I sometimes get when I'm going into town. That's cool, but it doesn't have to look exactly like that train, and it doesn't have to exactly go to where that train does go. You can make the train go somewhere else if you so desire, because it's your story to tell.
Sure. Furious, the hip hop sommelier, is asking his question. John, how much research, if any, visually did you do ahead of penciling one of my greatest comic book two-partners of all time, Zombie Night at Gotham Aquarium?
But practically none. Practically none. If you look at the at how accurate the seals and the and the octopus pie and all are, they're not exactly accurate. I was more going for a lot of comedy in Zombie Night, and so just making them humorous was the important thing, really. Even yeah. So that I really, it was more this idea of what a zombie dolphin might look like or a zombie seal, rather than it being particularly accurate.
I think your photo reference would be a bit.
Sorry.
I think your photo reference would be a bit. That would be a strange camera roll to have. But there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when I was doing Zombie Night at the Gotham Aquarium, the internet didn't exist, so actually doing reference for books was a lot trickier back then. It's a blessing and a curse, the internet, because obviously it allows you to know what everything looks like, but it also allows everybody else to know what everything looks like. So you feel beholden to get everything looking exactly right. And so you get obsessed with the details. And that can be tricky. Maybe it would be better if you're just focused on actually telling a good story. So yeah, that aspect of things is tricky. I mean, and it's such an easy rabbit hole to go down with Dead Eyes. The amount of research I did on some of the stories and deep diving into what Boston looked like and where things were and all that in relation to each other was a little insane at times. And I sort of, I'm not sure that it was totally necessary as well, you know. So it's one of those things where it can be, you know, artists are pretty obsessive compulsive creatures as it is.
At the best of times, yeah.
Adding at the best of times. So adding the internet to the mix has been a sort of interesting process altogether, I reckon. You know,
I'm gonna put this comment.
I think it's driven some people insane. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that there's a comment that's come in, which I am just going to put up just more for myself, more than anything, because I read Cy Spurrier's blog post this morning. This is from Andreas Schermerer. Thanks, guys, and save Hellblazer. Absolutely. What has happened with that story and how that's been cut short is, that hurt. That hurt. Yeah.
I mean, Cy and the gang have been doing a great job, and so hopefully they can continue with it. But you know, the industry is the industry at the moment, so who the hell knows?
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm going to be heading after this. I'm going to be checking out DC Fandom to see if it's just going to be a promotional puff piece, or if they're actually going to talk about it and actually mention it. But I suspect it's going to be more the former. But there we go. Right. Like I say, I think we're coming relatively close to this piece because it's. I mean,
aside from drawing the gun, which I'm going to use reference for, because I don't want the gun to look sort of crap. The picture is done. I may add a grayscale washes to the 6-pack and dog welder piece. This one I'll keep stark black and white because I quite like it like that. But yeah, I think these two are done. Obviously, the thing that I hate most is the rubbing out the pencils afterwards, which is why a lot of the time I work on a light box. But for doing something like this for you guys, it's much preferable to work straight over the pencils. But then you have to sit there rubbing out all the pencils afterwards, and that's one of my least favorite jobs in existence. So it is, you know.
Fair enough. A question from RG. John, has planning your Kickstarter tweaked your interest in writing more comic strips?
Writing more myself.
Mm.
I did do it. I have written a couple of stories over the years. Like I said, Carl Allison was written by myself, and though I'm not 100% sure how much you call that writing, but I also wrote a Dread story not that long ago, which was a kind of a follow-up to the Howl of the Wolf, or the Cry of the Wolf, I think. The sort of amazing Steve Dillon drawn Dread story where he's bitten by a werewolf, and my story was a kind of continuation of that and a tribute to Steve and his artwork as well. So yeah, and I enjoyed the process of writing it, and I actually had a follow-up story all figured out, but it never came to pass, unfortunately. You know, we shall see. I really have no clue. I don't think I'm the greatest writer in the world, and I think a lot of the time maybe it's wise to stick to your kind of
Stick to your strengths.
Your strengths, yes. You might, like as Clint Eastwood once said, a man's got to know his weaknesses, and I think in this case this is true. I'd perhaps not the most fantastic writer, so yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether or not I should just stick to the drawing.
Fair enough. Well, I think it's safe to say that what we've seen is that you're bloody good at it. We've loved watching your work, looking forward to certainly hopefully seeing these as received as prints for the 40k stretch goal. Once again, we're going to stick the URL up on the screen, guys. Please do go and check it out. Kickstarter.com, projects John McCrea, The Mighty World of McCrea. If you've not backed this campaign yet, you really are missing out on an amazing campaign and a fantastic book. Volume 1 is the what we're looking at the moment. So there we go. Excellent stuff.
You,
John, it's been an absolute pleasure watching you do these pieces. And I'm guessing the next thing now is, once completed scanning, you say that there may be some additional bit you might do in terms of colouring, or...
Well, yeah, definitely on the Six Pack and Dog Welder. I think they need color really to make the prints sort of worth it. I've got a friend, Jack Davies, who colors a lot of my work, and I may get Jack to color these. He's a really good colorist, up and coming colorist guy, and I may get him to color this. With Dead Eyes, I usually, when I'm coloring my covers, if you could call it that, I use one block of single color and just place it somewhere, and then I'll drop red in on his eyes and perhaps splatter a bit of blood over him, and that generally does it for that. Then I'll maybe stick a logo, Dead Eyes logo. I'll get Ryan to design plop the logo in and maybe do some cool stuff on it as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of tweaking after. It's not just scanning it in and sending it. I'm just interested as to how good Six Pack looks as Dead Eye's sidekick. The two work quite well together, don't they? I'm
just going to say you've got a very similar perspective there. They could sit nicely side by side.
Yes, I wasn't expecting that, I must admit. But there you go. Yeah. But yeah, they're nearly done, and I'll probably just piddle away with them a little bit more before. Obviously, I ain't Dog Welder completely, but yeah, piddle away with them a little bit more before they become final prints. So there we go.
Excellent stuff. John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed for letting us see and follow along with the creation of these pieces. I mean, we've got Grimmer Jaggers saying thank you so much indeed for the live stream. It was a lot of fun, and it's been fantastic to watch. So looking forward to seeing what happens with the future volumes, and also and really wanting the 40k stretch goal to happen, so that people can get their hands on this print. But other than that, thank you very much indeed for letting us be part of the process and to see what you've done.
Thank you very much, Leonard. It's been a pleasure, and I hope people have enjoyed sort of watching me scrabble away here, and hopefully produce a couple of drawings that don't look too terrible. Yeah, they're all right actually, aren't they?
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to solo on that camera one last time, so we can just can you just hold the pieces up to camera so we can just one last time just see.
That is the 6-pack and dog welder one. Let me see if I'm going the right way there.
Yeah.
And that is the Dead Eyes one as it stands at the moment. So yeah,
Fantastic.
just got to get the gun drawn in properly, and put some blocks of color in to kind of give it a little bit more substance.
Excellent stuff. John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed for letting us be part of this, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And once again, congratulations on the Kickstarter, and keep going.
Cheers.
Great guns with it, sir.
Thank you very much, Leonard. Cheers. And thanks very much, everybody who's tuned in and listened and asked questions. Really appreciate it. Okay.
If you are watching this after the fact, I'll keep an eye on all the comments that are coming in, and I'll try and get them to John over the course of the next 9 days, so that at least then people can at least get some questions in if you're watching this after the fact.
Cool.
But I'll try and get those to John. But there we go.
Thanks very much, Leonard.
Excellent stuff.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. And for myself, I hope you've enjoyed it. If it's the first time you've watched one of my live streams, it's Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. I'm back again with my usual show, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT tomorrow. So if you wouldn't mind, we'd love you to drop by. We are going to be talking to Derek Robertson tomorrow. So very much a whole panoply of talent that we've had on over the course of the week. From myself to you, thank you very much indeed. To John, once again, thanks for doing this. And yeah, we'll see you on the other side. Take care, everybody. John, say goodbyes.
Cheers. Thanks very much, folks. Bye.